Gentlemen, welcome. Dean, I'll start with you. A rather dramatic day out there, but you must be delighted with a couple of points on the board.
Oh yeah, we're obviously thrilled with the day. That was pretty full on, I'd have to say, by anyone's standard. Plenty of breeze. The boats are just flying around, and I think we had our top speed in the boat since we've been sailing it today. It's a fantastic sort of effort by the guys on the boat, because Chris and I are sitting there trying to keep the thing somewhat locked in, and the four other guys are just flogging themselves senseless, just trying to keep developing the oil to allow us to use the rake and the wing functions. And when you get a course like we had today, where it's 3 laps, it's very taxing on the crew, and they just did an amazing job today.
Well done, congratulations, Nathan. To you, bits coming off your boat all afternoon. Can you talk us through the damage, and is it going to be repairable for tomorrow?
Yeah, we had a bit of a stuff just before the start began, coming around the bottom mark, just trying to get a feel for the course, and blew out a bunch of the fairings at the front, and had to spend a lot of time trying to bandage up the boat to get going. And it just shows how fragile these boats are. I was talking to Dean before. He said they had little issues on their boat as well, and you just got to keep chipping away. And it was pretty tough out there, as Dean was saying, and the boat's back in the shed now, and they're just going over it and doing all the checks, and I'm sure it'll be good for tomorrow. Most of the stuff was cosmetic, but there was a few other bits and pieces that was sort of holding us back a little bit as well.
Okay, thank you. Ben, to you, a little bit of cosmetic damage to your boat as well, but a point on the board. Are you satisfied with today's performance before we talk about the incident, which we'll come to shortly?
Oh, it was an amazing day of sailing, certainly the most exciting, exhilarating sailing I've ever been involved in. Ultimately we were pleased with how we sailed as a team. I think all of the teams were struggling to get these boats around the course. They're so physical, and you just get one manoeuvre slightly wrong, puts you on the back foot for the rest of the race. So our guys did a great job. I guess we can talk about what happened in the second race later, but ultimately one loss and one win. Considering the conditions today, we're happy with that.
Thank you. Let's turn to the incident. I want to ask each of you about what you've seen, if you've had a chance to see the footage yet. It looked like a mistake had been made on Peter Burling's behalf. Does that concur with what you guys have seen? Ben, I'll start with you.
Well, the incident happened just as Emirates Team New Zealand were crossing the starting line, and we'd been sort of dialed up, and it's a tough bear-away, a big, deep bear-away, which in those conditions in these boats isn't easy. It looked like to me there was just a slight misjudgment on the rake and the angle, but I think all of us sitting here not going to pass criticism. These boats are incredibly hard to sail, and these things can happen, and thank God, most importantly, everyone's fine on the boat. I'm sure they'll recover from that and be out racing tomorrow or the next day.
Thank you. Nathan, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, looked like one of those moments where I saw their incident, and we had plenty close moments ourselves. You would have seen in the second race how close we got to Dean when we had a little nose stuff, and then I actually looked up and saw them about a boat length ahead with their boat underwater too. So we bailed out of that situation and turned up and stopped, and which eventually put us out of bounds. But I was a bit nervous that they were going to do something like what Pete did right in front of us, and we were going to go on top of them. So our reflex was to get up out of that situation. But I had a good look at what Team New Zealand did, and it looked like, as Ben was saying, they turned it down quite hard trying to get through the start line there. And, a split-second decision, can put the boat upside down quite quickly. So, I'm sure if Pete was here, he'd tell us exactly what happened. So it's a bit hard to cast judgment.
Thank you. Dean, anything you want to add to that?
I haven't really seen it, so I can't really comment. So.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to open this to the floor now. If you'd like to ask a question, I'm going to ask you to put your hand up and state your name and publication. I'm going to start with Elaine here. If you'd like to hand the microphone to Elaine, please state your name and publication into this microphone, please. Thank you.
Elaine Bunting from Yachting World. It's a question for Ben. Please, you said some interesting things at the end of that final race. For anybody who thinks maybe that 22, 23 knots isn't all that much, Could you paint a picture of what it looks like and feels like for you on board?
Well, we were averaging, I think, close to around 21 to 23 knots, I think gusting up to 26, 27 knots. As you can see on board, there's a lot of white water. And the boats just, you know, I'd liken it to skiing on ice. You really just have to go for it and be as fast as you can, and just no holds barred. If you start sort of slowing up, trying to play it safe, that's almost worse. And you know, when it works, when you're sailing these boats fast and well, it's incredibly rewarding. But as we saw today, there are lots of times when it's just, for whatever reason, not possible, and it's incredibly hard, both for the helmsman, the wing trimmer, and all of the guys there on the boat helping with the oil creation or generation harvesting. So, yeah, it's a full-on day sailing these boats in these conditions, and in, you know, it is on days like today the ultimate team sport, I think.
Thank you. Next question here, Todd.
Todd Nile, Radio New Zealand. Ben, in the countdown to your first race, how much time did Team NZ have up their sleeves in getting back to the start line in time? How close was that?
It was incredibly close. They made it, I'd say, with 2 or 3 minutes to spare. So good job on their side. Their shore team getting back to the base, replacing the damaged wing with the spare wing and getting out. And, you know, given that they hadn't had any practice time in the morning either, you'd have to take your hat off and say they did a good job in that race to get around the course.
Did you know what they'd gone back to do, and did you have a view on whether they would get back in time?
Yes, we were aware of the damage that they had to the wing. We had a team were monitoring their progress. We thought it was going to be touch and go whether they'd make the race or not. But we just continued. We actually had our own issues. We had a slight technical fault that the guys were working on for most of the race that Japan and Artemis were going through. So, you know, again, in these conditions just shows how tough the boats are to maintain and be ready for racing. But, you know, when we got out there, it was some incredible racing.
Thank you. Next question, please, from the floor. Yes, please, Richard Gladwell over here.
Richard Gladwell from Sarworld for Nathan. Can you just run me through what happened with that penalty? And we could hear you guys shouting and carrying on and stop the boat. What was it all about?
Yeah, I've just spent a bit of time reviewing on the umpire app exactly how it all played out, and because we turned up to avoid the near capsize situation, we ended up going quite a bit out of bounds. And the way that the rules work is the out of bounds penalty is a 2 boat length penalty based off the other boat at that moment. So when we re-entered the racecourse area, we had to lose 2 boat lengths from SoftBank Team Japan. And the umpires decided, from what I understand, that it was a deliberate, intentional going out of bounds, so they added a second one to it. So we then had to lose 4 boat lengths. Unfortunately for us at that moment, it looked like Japan had just jibed and were sailing a low soaking mode into the bottom mark. And we were trying to sail as slow as we could, but unfortunately that was still somewhere over 40 knots. We had the jib completely flapping, and as you can probably appreciate, dropping the windward hull at that kind of speed will often cause more damage to the boat. So we were just trying to sail as slow as we could, but with the shift that we had, it meant that we were sailing quite a deep angle. And we actually gained a lot of distance instead of losing distance, so we had to stop at the bottom mark and wait for some period of time, and you know, it felt like an eternity, and looking back on it, it was.
Thank you. Any more questions from members of the media present? Yes, Todd again, please.
For Nathan, at the risk of getting trivial in a big day like this, Nathan, we heard Ian Percy air some views about the chief umpire. Are there any consequences? Is that a fine, or what happens there?
We haven't heard anything from the chief umpire yet, but I'm sure that Percy will be having a chat with him this evening, and vice versa. And I don't know, we'll see what happens there. But I'm sure probably the most important thing is for us is to understand exactly what we should have done better to try and resolve that penalty and get back into the race sooner.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yes, down here, please, David Palmer.
Hello, does that work? Yeah, David Palmer, Yachts and Yachting. I just want to try and understand what happened to you at the first mark. It looked as if you couldn't bear away, and it looked as if you had continuing problems on the starboard bearaway all around the course. Are you saying it was entirely down to avoiding another boat?
We had some minor systems issues throughout the day, and sort of lost confidence in the control system of the flight control system of the boat, and so we opted to play it cautious throughout the race in moments where it wasn't behaving correctly, and that's why you saw us at times at the top mark stopping, making sure everything was working properly before you rip it into a bearaway. I think obviously when you're racing, there's a tough balance between pushing the boat hard and keeping racing and making sure that you actually get the boat and the crew around safely. And, unfortunately we didn't get any points today, but, all the crew are safe, the boat's still in one piece and we'll be good to go tomorrow. So we'll do a bit of time tonight reviewing how the boat was performing and develop the confidence in the boat again before tomorrow.
Thank you. David has another question, I believe.
Earlier in the first speech, we heard you saying high mode. Can you explain what you meant by that, please?
High mode just means sail the boat high and slow as opposed to low and fast, so just a moding there.